Hello and welcome to Scilence, a podcast that gives women in science, technology, engineering and maths, or STEM, an opportunity to share honestly and openly about what it's really like working in these typically male-dominated subjects. Each week, one woman shares her stories and experiences. She could be a public figure, the girl next door, or someone from a far-off land. The point is, she'll be deliberately kept anonymous and disguised to ensure that we're not distracted by the details of her achievements, her labels, or what she looks like. I'm Dr. Shanice O'Mara, also a woman in STEM. I studied mechanical engineering and ended up as a television broadcaster. I worked on and reported on some cutting-edge technology and innovation over the years, and through my television work, I've met some incredible women from a diverse range of STEM fields. And you know what? I've been more amazed about what I've learned from these women when the cameras have been turned off and they're just being themselves. These women have amazingly impressive CVs, but most importantly, they're human, just like the rest of us. And it's their off-air honesty that I'd love to share with you through Scilence. This week, my guest is also in the field of mechanical engineering. Hi!
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to be able to talk to someone that studied something that I also studied. I feel like we've got loads in common, and I'm curious to see whether we've had similar journeys.
Yeah, me too.
Firstly, what was it like growing up? Like, what kind of kid were you that maybe suggested that you would end up in mechanical engineering?
Yeah, so I originally grew up in the Midwest. I came from kind of a small, very white suburban town and raised by both of my parents. And my parents kind of had these conflicting parenting styles, which I think eventually kind of led me to engineering. My father was actually a software engineer, so he was always into STEM and kind of showing me those things, like buying me little science kits or buying me books about math and things like that. While my mom on the other side didn't think maybe education and those types of skills were as important and really pushed a lot of cleaning, learning how to cook, learning how to dress, things like that. But I think overall, like my dad's influence, I saw it was more fun. Learning about math and science was way more fun than learning to be a housewife. So I that influence really was just something that affected me from such a young age. And I was always thinking about engineering maybe since the age of 7.
Yeah, I also had a very strong influence from my father. I must admit, I was a bit of a daddy's girl. But were you aware back then, maybe at the tender age of 7, that mechanical engineering was a boy's subject, or did that not even occur to you?
I kind of knew what engineering was because my father was in that field, but overall, I knew that math and science was definitely a boys' club. I think on the front of my science kit that I got at that age, it was like a blonde, blue-eyed boy and his father with like test tubes on the front of that, and even that packaging. I remember that, like, oh, I can be that boy. Or even just like TV shows I watched. Like one of my favorite shows was the cartoon Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network, and Dee Dee, the older feminine sister, was kind of unintelligent compared to the smart brother.
Wow, so even back then, the stereotypes were raging.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't think it stopped me. It never said, like, you cannot be this, but I did notice it.
So clearly it didn't stop you. So do you reckon your father was your biggest inspiration and role model?
Yes, definitely. My father definitely was. I think, and I don't really think he meant to do this on purpose, but he actually raised me in a very gender neutral way. I like to think that I it's me, and then I also have a younger sister. I was the son my father always wanted but never had. And so he just wanted to show me anything and everything, and also kind of relive his childhood through raising his daughters. So being introduced to sports, being introduced to fixing things around the house and power tools, those kinds of things. And it's such little things. And it really influenced me. He's definitely one of my biggest influences in my life.
Wow, you are literally telling my story. I mean, how strong was the influence? Were you following your own heart, or was your father's influence so strong that it was more his dream than yours?
I think that was the really nice thing. While it had so much influence in my childhood, it eventually became my dream. In high school, I actually kind of had this fork in the road. I've always been a creative person as well, so it was either art school or engineering school. And my dad, he bit his tongue as much as he didn't want me to go to art school and pursue that. He didn't say anything. He was very neutral. He's a very neutral person and really doesn't push any ideology or on me or my sister when growing up. So that was really nice. So I like to say that I picked mechanical engineering, and I think my father would wanted me to go into computer science anyway. So
What was your academic journey in a nutshell? How did you get to where you are today?
yeah. So I think a pet peeve of mine is when people call other people smart or you're so smart, like blah, 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 blah. You did it because you are smart. And I just think there's so much more than being smart. I wasn't a straight A student. I got B's throughout high school and like B's and C's throughout college. And I think my academic journey was honestly studying a lot by myself and a lot of self motivation. So actually, when I was 7 or 8 years old, I was lucky enough to go to a private school. I was living in Southeast Asia at the time, and the private school would let you go up grades in your subject courses. And for whatever reason, I thought math was super fun. So I'm like, I don't want to be in second grade level math. I'm going to study math in my free time and try to get to fourth grade level math. And I did that for fun, just because I wanted to. I don't think I was smart. I just think I had that motivation to succeed.
Wow, so there's a real determination to get through the subjects that you needed, even though you didn't find them easy.
Yeah, it was. The subjects were not easy. I think my best subject, just thinking back at high school, was probably writing and probably politics and those kind of liberal art courses. I just found the STEM courses to be so much more rewarding. And so I really pushed through that. So I don't think maybe naturally I don't fall into the engineer. Like I don't think I'm naturally good at engineering. I just wanted to do it at that point.
Did you say that you did struggle with maths, or that you were just so interested in it that you pursued it?
I was a pretty good student up until I hit high school, and things got a lot harder. I'm also really blessed that I was able to go to a very good high school. So that gave me a lot of opportunities. We had the option to go up to multivariable calculus through my high school. So as soon as I started hitting my Calc 1 course in high school, so about college level courses, it started getting really, really difficult for me. And yeah, just the constant studying, trying to find a group of friends. I actually found a really great group of girlfriends. So we had our girl math study group for calculus, which really helped me a lot.
And how important was that girl math study group?
The girl math study group in high school was so essential. Just getting together, laughing, and it wasn't even talking about like, oh, we're the only girls in class, because I think the class was actually probably 50-50 in high school. So that wasn't even something that we discussed. It was just hanging out, high school girls, maybe talking about the cute boy in the corner, and then trying to figure out how integrals work. But I think that all changed actually kind of what you were saying in college. So I had this expectation like it's 50-50 now, high school, so much representation in my classes where I didn't even recognize it. And then I went to college and I was like, whoa, about maybe only 20% of people in my mechanical engineering classes are female. So that was surprising.
Yeah, I mean, the girls tend to start dropping STEM subjects the further they go through academia. Why do you think that happens?
I there's I think there's a lot of reasons. I don't know, and each girl probably they'll drop out for their own reasons. I do not think there is a good support system for women. I still think there's a lot of um, remarks that are being said by your male peers, but also by your even your professors, and that make it really uncomfortable. I had to deal a little bit with that maybe when things really started narrowing down, when I was really the only girl in class. So that started happening like my junior and senior year of college. I don't know. Uh, that's a really tough question, and I'd like to hear more about your experience and why you think that, especially for with mechanical engineering.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was really um, as a result of my experience in really being very sensitive to the difference between the way men learn and the way women learn. So I just lacked so much confidence in my ability. And so I was often the kind of shrinking violet in the class, the quiet one, because I didn't want to get the answers wrong and I didn't want to fit the stereotype that girls were not as good as boys in these subjects. I was just full of a lot of self doubt. And that really kind of made me want to stand in the background. Did you ever experience that?
Yes, yes, constantly, and even to this day, as a working professional, still having this self doubt, and we hear this all the time. Like women need to get 10 out of 10 requirements to think that they're adequate, while their male peers maybe 6 out of 10 is good enough, and they'll go and jump for that opportunity. I definitely see that. I think there's a culture that women need to be perfect in everything that they do, and that pressure is totally there. And especially being one of the only females in school and even at work, I feel like I'm I'm more noticed. I think people are watching me. I don't know if that's true or not though.
Yeah, I think self consciousness is a major part of the way we carry ourselves in the industry. And it's also really interesting that you mention perfectionism because I often do ask myself, did the perfectionism exist before mechanical engineering or did it develop during mechanical engineering? Because at a certain point in my career, I just feared failure. And I don't know when that started to kick in. And I completely agree with you. I started to set standards for myself that were unreasonably high. Are you working in mechanical engineering now then?
I am, and I'm very proud to say that. I also know, I forget the statistic, but a lot of women also drop out of mechanical engineering during the transition between graduation and getting that first job. I was very conscious of that fact, so I told myself my first job has to be a hardcore mechanical engineering job. So I've been working now. I graduated 2 years ago, so I've been working at the same company for 2 years, and it's been A crazy but amazing experience there.
And what is your job like on a daily basis?
So I'll talk a little bit about my company without mentioning the name, but we are a contract engineering service, and our main clientele is Silicon Valley. And so I didn't know this at all, that this even existed before getting this job. But a lot of the times, a lot of these Silicon Valley big companies and even startups, they need to get something kind of like a showpiece, something to show their investors, something they need to display at like the Consumer Electronics Show, but they don't have the bandwidth, or they thought of this idea way too last minute. So they would actually outsource that whole design to a small company like mine. And we're basically ghost designers for Silicon Valley. You'll never hear about my company. We will never get the credit. But after being at my company for 2 years, I look around, things from little consumer electronics to even autonomous cars. A lot of those designs are not designed by those companies. So kind of an industry secret there. So my day to day life is at work is pretty crazy. We are supposed to work about 2 to 4 times faster than a typical Silicon Valley company, and those companies are already working at pretty rapid paces. So it's a lot of long hours. I do a lot of CAD work in front of the computer, rapid prototyping, that kind of thing. It was actually my dream job, and I was lucky enough to get it. So I'm really happy about that.
That's so awesome that you're right in the thick of mechanical engineering. What's the gender balance like? Are you very conscious of being a woman, or is this not even an issue for you today?
It's still definitely an issue. The gender balance is horrible. I'm at a company, maybe we have 50 to 60 people. There are two females that are on the engineering teams. So 2 out of 50 right now.
Wow. And what do you feel you lack by not working with other women?
I think I lack a lot of respect. I had to gain my respect, and I feel like I recently got the respect of my fellow teammates and managers after 2 years of working. People didn't trust me, and people did definitely go out of their way, since we're such a fast paced company, walk up to me and ask me, what am I doing? Why am I doing it this way? And in kind of a tone that I didn't hear asked of the other peers. Like I was less trustworthy in a way.
What kind of resilience did you need to develop to survive that?
A lot of, to be honest, the first few months I came home and I would just cry. It was pretty sad. I just had to. It was my goal to push through, do the mechanical engineering thing. It's if even if I switch out of mechanical engineering one day, I know just in general for my overall career path, I need a strong foundation of technical knowledge, and the best time to do that is while I'm young and still fresh out of college. So the first few months were really terrible for my self esteem and confidence. My friends were pretty supportive. I have a boyfriend that I live with. He also is in the tech industry, so he saw the exact same things, and he was very supportive and always had an open ear for me to basically just vent all the time. In the end, there were like very specific situations where I knew I was doing something the right way, even if the rest of the team didn't think so. And just like knowing inside myself, like I'm doing this correctly, or I'm doing this, technical approach the best way. Just, I don't know. I just had to believe in myself to push through, and I'm getting better and better at that.
Yeah, I was going to say that it sounds like you have a lot of self belief.
Yeah, I if I don't believe in myself, no one else will. So
Yeah, and where do you think that self belief has come from?
I think a lot of it is growing up and being able to do it in a controlled setting, such as school. I wasn't the best student, but I pushed through. I was really happy with the grades. I was able to make personal goals and reach all those personal goals, and have done that my entire life. So it's like, if if I've done it before, I can do it again and keep believing in myself, push past this hurdle.
So has it been a case of setting goals and just being utterly focused in achieving them?
Yes, I did try like very like specific things such as bullet journaling where you write out all your goals, or just general journaling, and to try and record all of that in a more like logical, data driven way. That didn't really work for me, but yeah, setting those goals, like big lofty goals, and just focusing on them and thinking about it every day. So each year I kind of have an overall theme and like an overall goal. So just generally working towards that. So my overall goal this year is career confidence and doing everything to step up to the plate, gain that respect from everyone, and be more confident in myself. While my overall goal last year, so that would be my getting it after my first year of working, was just getting my shit together, surviving at work, just getting through the kind of this adulting groove and getting used to that kind of everyday same thing life. But I think that's really helped, like a year goal.
Not only does it make sense, but it's incredibly wise. That just seems like a very responsible, mature way to plan your life. So, do you tend to set your goals just annually, or do you have a long term plan?
Currently, I do not have a long term plan. I did, and my long term plan many years ago was the very basic, go to high school, get your degree, go to college, get your degree, find a really, really cool job. And that's kind of where my life plan stopped. And so now I'm kind of taking it year by year, and I know that's actually kind of the next step that I need to do is the life plan, because that's a really popular question I still don't know how to answer, is where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I don't know.
Okay, so what does having it all mean to you?
Having it all, I think, everything kind of just, it comes from happiness and being happy, but also just being happy with everything you have in your life. So I just think like job satisfaction is super essential. Being happy with your group of friends and relationships, making sure there's no toxic people in your life. I think having it all in this day and age just requires being financially stable, living somewhere safe, and just being satisfied with your current situation and just being content. And I think I am almost there, and I'm I'm pretty happy, and I'm actually really proud to be almost fully content with what I have.
So, what about other things like family and having children, which is obviously, a major role of a woman, obviously, and men, but what are your thoughts around having a family?
When I was younger, I wanted kids. I wanted two little girls, just like what my mom wanted. And now, growing up and seeing everything, I thought by my age, I would actually have at least one or a couple of kids. By now, but I am nowhere near that. I think growing up takes a lot longer than, I don't know, your 14-year-old self would think. And so right now, kids are definitely not there, but there's a lot of pressure from my family. My mom's side of the family is Southeast Asian, so there is some of this Asian culture pushing for kids, and because my mom wants her grandbabies to take care of, that kind of thing. And every family reunion, I gotta say, hey all, no, I'm not getting married anytime soon, and I'm not planning on kids anytime soon because I really need to just focus on myself first. I'm not there yet.
I find it very inspiring that you're putting what you want first, because certainly my story is that I put other people's expectations of me before my own. And so I really commend you for being strong on that. How did you develop that real sort of confidence in knowing what you want?
I don't know. I just kind of know what I want. Just I'm always thinking about self-improvement and how I can get better and reach that content state, that state of happiness. So that's always what I'm working towards, and I don't know why those are my goals, but that's what they are right now. And I'm a pretty stubborn person when it comes to getting things my way. And that actually came from the relationship, I think, between me and my mom. Like I said, my parents had two very different parenting styles. My mom was very strict and didn't really appreciate the value of education, especially when her goal was for her daughters to be housewives, but with like a very comfortable stay-at-home lifestyle. And so back in high school, my mom and I would get into fights because there were some nights where it was my turn to cook dinner for the family. And I would say, no, I have to study for my AP test. I have all this, high school classwork. Like, I really can't cook dinner tonight. And I would get grounded from dinner. So there was this one time where I wasn't allowed to eat at my home anymore because if I wasn't willing to cook and provide for my family, my mom would not do that for me. And so I would need to leave the house and like go eat dinner at the neighbors or find food elsewhere so I can continue studying for my AP classes. So I became very stubborn, I think, that way.
Wow. And it sounds like you really developed an assurance in what you wanted for yourself.
Yeah, I think so. I think it began with just wanting, this was my way of rebelling. Like, my mom doesn't like me studying, so I'm gonna study, which is, I guess, it ended up being very positive in the end. But yeah, it it forced me to be self-assured because like if I'm gonna commit to not eating food anymore at my house for, the next month, I need to commit to that.
That's amazing. And what keeps you driven in your job? Like, what ultimately are you getting from the work you do?
I'm very proud of the work I do. I think my favorite thing is seeing something that comes from just an idea in the customer's head. We work with a lot of extraordinary visionaries, the whole startup visionaries, and to get their idea from their head to a hand sketch to a, let's say, like a packaging layout on in a CAD model and bringing that all the way. And then along with that process, I learned so much working with such a variety of projects. So I learned something yesterday and I implement it today. And to see that all come in to just like a final physical product that you hold, you can touch, you can pass around, you can sit in or whatever, just is really really cool. It makes me really proud. I'm
You do sound like a very balanced individual. Do you have any kind of secrets as to how you achieve that balance in life?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I'm glad I sound balanced on air. I will disagree with you though. I still have a lot of confidence issues that I'm working with. So it's kind of the fake it until you make it mentality. So working on that. I do have a lot of anxiety, just the whole what we were talking about before with perfectionism and trying to reach that. But just the I don't know, I have a drive to keep moving forward, and I think maybe that's what keeps me balanced. I do try and keep myself in check. I think having friends you can call when you're sad or stressed, and people you can rely on really help with all of that emotional kind of stress. But no, I'm not balanced.
Well, thank you so much for the honesty of admitting that because I think one of the pressures that women have is to really create the illusion that they've got this. And I really suffered with feeling able to show my weakness in engineering because, you know, being surrounded by a lot of men, I felt like I had to be one of the boys. So I think you admitting that you're still working on that stuff is very inspiring. What is the anxiety rooted in for you? Like, where does it come from? Why does it occur for you?
I think everything just feels so real and so consequential now than ever before. Especially with my work environment, if I make a big enough mistake, I will get fired. I am still replaceable. My company has a hire slow, fire fast policy, and so I think a lot of it is workplace culture is causing me a lot of anxiety. The need for being perfect and doing everything really, really well is causing a lot of stress. Yeah, those kinds of things.
And that doesn't sound like a gender thing. It sounds more like a work environment issue.
Yeah, I think it is mostly a work environment issue. I don't think my workplace has the healthiest work culture. It's definitely a place where they burn people out and then you get replaced with the next batch of people. There are some gender issues. For instance, only the me and another mechanical engineer, only females in the company. There's no female leadership. There's no just even mentorship at my company. That's non-existent. So I don't really have anyone to look up to. I don't have that many people within the company I can talk to, because if I talk about how I'm struggling, that's a sign of weakness and a way I could get fired. Actually, someone got let go a few weeks ago for being, quote, too emotional at work.
Women do tend to be highly emotional. So, are you an emotional person? And how do you cope with your emotions at work if you are?
Yeah, I am a very emotional person. So when that other person got let go a few weeks ago for those kinds of reasons, and um in like the official, they sent a company wide email. In the official email, I think they try to cover it up like it wasn't a right culture fit, it wasn't this, but all the company gossip afterwards was like, yeah, that guy was way too emotional. He talked about his feelings too much. Da, 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 it affected his projects. And that was like, oh gosh, reminder, don't be too emotional at work. I am emotional, and I think I use humor to kind of disguise my emotions. So if I'm really upset, maybe I make kind of like a funny, snarky comment to someone. And so it expresses that I'm angry, but I'm not really angry because it's a joke. But is it a joke? So that kind of tactic.
Well, first of all, I just jumped to the conclusion that the emotional person that was let go from your company was female. So I'm surprised to note that it was a guy. But I often find these issues that come up on these podcasts are very complex and multi-layered. So it's like there is no room for emotion within mechanical engineering, possibly, because I also experienced that myself. But then it's not necessarily a gender issue, although women have a tendency to be more emotional than men. So it's like, are we talking about the anxiety stemming from emotion, or just the anxiety stemming from a need to just take emotion off the table completely? It's really complex.
It is, and yeah, I don't know how to answer it. I think just in general, though, these feminine traits, being emotional, having, relationships, having empathy in the office, those types of things are seen as weaknesses. And it doesn't have to be related, in this case, to gender. But yeah, kind of what you were saying, it's a boys club. You got to be part of the boys club, and the boys club jokes around. They don't discuss their feelings. You kind of have to hide all of that.
Do you feel that emotions are a waste of time in your workplace, or would you like to see more of that emotional intelligence in your industry?
I would love, love, love to see more emotional intelligence in our industry. Mechanical engineering, it's not too far off removed from industrial engineering, where industrial engineering is very focused on user experience and things of that nature. Mechanical engineers, we're designing things for real people to use. And I think having a high emotional intelligence would really help with even just the design itself. Thinking about your end user in a more complete way, I think would help design. And I think that's something I'm bringing right now to the company, and why a lot of people were kind of doubtful of my style, because the questions I would ask, like, well, does the customer really want this, or does the customer mean actually this, kind of caught people off guard. Like, no, the customer gave us these specs, like we need to follow the specs. It's like, well, no, let's step back and think about it, relate to them, be in their shoes. So yeah, I think we need to get more emotional about our customers, and then just also about each other. Like, I think burnout is such a huge problem in the tech industry and in the Silicon Valley tech industry. And I just burnout and pushing people too far past their comforts, I just do not think is acceptable.
Do you know, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for actually having a voice within your industry to say, you know what, I think my ideas are actually valid. Because I think a lot of women are so scared of their ideas being rejected that often women have to become more like men to keep their jobs. And it sounds like you resisted that. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for having that bravery to just speak your mind. But also, why is the industry going that way? I mean, why is it? Why is the culture like that, where men can dominate women in that way?
Uh, yeah, once again, a lot of answers. I actually just finished reading Brotopia by Emily Chang, and that kind of talks about how Silicon Valley became such a brotopia, and basically just the people who founded it instilling their ideas and hiring and only wanting to work with people that think like you, look like you, I think is the main problem. Sometimes it is easier just to fit in and go with the flow. I've only very recently started pushing back, reminding the team, hey, you guys, let's reconsider my idea again. This is very new. And every time I speak out, in the back of my head, I'm just thinking like, oh crap, is this the moment where I'm gonna get in trouble and I'm gonna get fired? So yeah, just faking that confidence and pushing through, I guess.
Yeah, I literally can imagine what it must be like for you, where you're like, ah, is this the moment when I'm going to get fired or my
Yeah.
reputation is going to crumble, or is this the moment where I gain loads of respect?
Yeah.
I mean, do you find that very exhausting? Because I feel exhausted hearing you talk about it.
Yes, it's super exhausting. I feel like I'm constantly coming up with plans, and I'm always rephrasing how I say things in my head. Before I speak out or say anything, I always have a plan, like a backup plan. Like, okay, what if my suggestion is the senior team really hates it? What am I gonna say then? So like, okay, so that's plan A. Or what if plan B activates and this becomes very serious, and then my boss's boss has to step in, and like, what am I going to do at that point, or like, how should I phrase it, or it's like, who am I talking to, who's my audience? Okay, like, this person likes jokes, so I should be more funny with this person. This person's very serious, I need to be very careful with my words. So I'm constantly churning and thinking of all possibilities and all ways to approach, and this is just talking. And then I do the same thing for like my actual job, which is designing stuff.
Do you think your colleagues go through the same processes?
I in maybe the design half, like, oh, if I design this, then these are the pros and cons. I don't know if they do when it comes to talking. I think they speak their mind, and that's that.
I mean, I don't want to boil it down to being a woman in that environment, but it does sound like, I don't know, you're having to take on that extra analysis because you're female. Do you think that's a fair thing to say?
I think it is a fair thing. Um, And maybe once again, it's not female, but maybe it's feminine characteristics because I am more emotional, and because I might think a little differently than some of my colleagues. I have to factor that in with how I um, say something, or even how I present myself, and those kinds of things.
Do you know, I'm trying to think back to our conversation today, and I'm wondering whether it sounds positive or negative for mechanical engineering. I don't know. We'll have to let the listeners decide. But for anyone that is considering walking in the same footsteps that you've taken, what would be your advice to them?
My biggest advice is just really jump into the field, and it doesn't have to be through formal education. Mechanical engineering is it is a lot of design. So if you're practicing drawing hand sketches in your notebook, or you want to just put something together, like getting familiar with power tools and building stuff, taking things apart and just looking how things work, and getting that mechanical understanding of how everyday objects work, I think is really important. And having that background, I think is really essential, because I think anyone can learn the the equations and learn the software, but to become a good designer or a good mechanical tester or those kinds of things, you kind of need an just like kind of an innate understanding of objects.
And would you recommend this as a good career choice for a woman?
Yes, I would. It kind of sucks right now, but I really, really think that it's going to be better. Mechanical engineering is such a diverse field too. I talk a lot specifically about design engineering, but there are so many different aspects to engineering. Every object we touch is influenced or designed by a mechanical engineer. Your toilet paper holder, your lamps, the machines that die cut the fabrics on your pillows, um, things like that. So if I would say, if you are a person that appreciates objects, like if you are materialistic in that way, and you want to make objects and make them work for people, I think you should really consider mechanical engineering. It's a lot of creativity and it's a lot of problem solving. The math and the science just are the tools to get there.
And in terms of like the most important characteristics you need to be in an industry like yours, what would you say are the most important?
I, th- I think you really just have to push through and believe in yourself. You're gonna have so many people work against you, whether that be your own mother, your professors making sexist comments in class. Just ignore all of those people. Just focus on yourself and push through. And I think we'll all get there. I think the industry is slowly getting better.
And just for my own sort of like personal comparison, what's it been like for you as a woman in terms of like just the way you dress for work and stuff like that? Because for me, I always had to tone down my femininity. Is this something that you like, do you end up even caring about this stuff?
Oh, I definitely care about this. So, I love makeup. I love clothes. So I'm always getting my nails done. I wear fake eyelashes every day. So I have a very like made up feminine look. So at work, I really tone it down because at work everyone's wearing jeans and t-shirts. So I don't wear anything low cut. You're allowed to wear shorts. I do not wear shorts. I wear everyday long pants that go down to at least my ankles. A shirt, kind of baggier, nothing skin tight, and then closed-toed, comfortable shoes. And sometimes you are working in a machine shop, so just keeping that safety in mind. Always having I have longer hair, so having a hair binder on my wrist in case I gotta tie up my hair and jump into the machine shop. And then my makeup is pretty natural or toned down. I've had some experience where I've pushed the line and I got some really bad feedback. One time I dyed my hair kind of a pastel blue. It was very trendy on Instagram. I thought it would look cute. I thought it looked cute, but I got such weird comments like, why is your hair blue? Like, what did you do to yourself? Just like confusion. I just utter confusion from all my male coworkers. I had so many comments that day, and I was like, I really shouldn't do this again. I should just keep it natural looking now.
Do you feel that you have to compromise aspects of yourself to do your job, or are you quite happy to make those changes?
I think the dressing thing personally is fine. My company doesn't have a dress code, so this is pretty much the unspoken dress code. And so if that's a part of corporate America, having a dress code, whether it's written down or it's secretly there, I'm okay with it. That's kind of just part of the system. But yeah, as soon as I come home and I'm going out to a nice restaurant, I change my clothes, I wear the dress I want to wear, my open-toed shoes, and I pile on the makeup. So I have a work look and a regular look for sure.
The woman comes out with a vengeance.
Yes.
So, right at the beginning of this conversation, you said that you very early on you thought you may be more creative. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Have you had an opportunity to let that creativity out either through your work or otherwise?
Yeah, a bit of both. And I'll say engineering school was the best decision of my life. I'm so much more comfortable and I think content. So art school probably was a bad idea. So I'm glad I didn't go down that path. But yeah, creativity. So being a design engineer actually has a lot of creativity, and I've kind of helped open the doors for my company to allowed to be more creative. I do a lot of drawing and hand sketches for all my designs, and not everyone draws at work. Some people just go straight to the computer. But before, when I was sketching in notebooks, maybe for like an hour before I even turn on the computer, I was questioned, like, why aren't you working? Because my computer wasn't on. And it's like, I am working. This is how I ideate. I ideate, on a piece of paper. And I had explained that to a couple of folks, and they're like, oh, okay, sure, that's fine. So there's some there. And then after work, I do all my other like creative kind of like side projects. I got a 3D printer last year, so I'm printing a lot of Halloween costume parts and things like that. I paint, I do arts and crafts. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff after work for fun. It's kind of like a stress reliever.
Gosh, it's just been so inspiring to speak to you and see how another mechanical engineer who's a woman kind of navigates through this career choice. It's brought back so many memories of my days in the industry, and I really do feel like I've learned a lot from you through your honesty and through your strength and tenacity. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting. This has been almost kind of therapeutic. I've had all of these like thoughts before, and a lot of the questions you asked were really good questions. But yeah, I feel lighter after this conversation.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much. That's it from our STEM guest this week. Wow, what an incredible woman. I just feel like she is so sorted in her approach to this very male-dominated industry. She certainly picked up a few lessons along the way, which is making her push through the challenges that still seem to be there. They haven't changed since the day I was in mechanical engineering. What an incredible woman. Thanks for listening, and catch you next week on Scilence.